Welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and we are here tonight to look forward to Saturday's visit of Ayr United. And it is a nice streamlined panel for tonight. I'm joined by two good men. First of all, Alan Douglas-Munn. How are you, Alan?
Good mate, yeah. Nearly another weekend, nearly another trip to Somerset Park, which is always enjoyable. And slightly disappointed that Dunfermline managed to somehow get a win last night, but never mind, can't have it all.
Yeah, your tone slightly gave you away there. You're like, another visit to Somerset Park. Good. Nearly the summer. We've also got Iain Latto as well. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Another weekend closer to the end of the season. We can all get some much needed break from the football.
Yeah, I was just saying before we started, really don't know what the content of this podcast is going to be. I don't imagine anybody's sitting at home thinking, I can't wait till the boys get round to these hot talking points ahead of this weekend. There's not a whole load of intrigue dripping out of this one, but I'm sure we'll find our way around it anyway. But maybe we're being too downtrodden from the outset, too downbeat. I mean, the Rovers are unbeaten in their last 5. They've got 4 clean sheets in that time. We won't mention what happened on the other one, or immediately before that. 29 points at home this season compared to just 13 on the road. So when we're going into this game on Saturday, Alan, we're at home. We're unbeaten in 5 games. Should we not be brimming with confidence?
To be honest, in terms of the actual game on Saturday itself, I am pretty much looking forward to it. It should be a decent game. We are in good form. On the whole, we've been pretty good at home all season. I think the general kind of malaise that's kind of over us as a fan base is just that this season as a whole has been just meh. Like, last season, there were so many really, really high points. Like, we could sit here and talk for hours and hours about some of the games we witnessed last season. And I think it probably all comes down to the point that Iain very eloquently made on this podcast last year is if you can't enjoy these moments, you shouldn't be following Rovers, because it's not going to be like this every season. Iain basically predicted we were going to have this season. It's totally his fault. But no, generally, in terms of the game itself, I am actually looking forward to it. We're all ready for the season to be ended. Give it 2 weeks into the close season, we'll be like, oh man, I can't wait for pre-season to start. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I think that's the bit I enjoy the most is the close season, when you can just sort of project whatever you want onto what might happen.
Folk constantly asking the Twitter admin for weather updates.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Grum's old line about not letting the football spoil an afternoon at the football. Like, I don't want to let the football spoil being a football supporter. I like the bit in the summer where you get to just wonder about what might happen. And yeah, I mean, Iain, is it slightly too kind of premature to be reaching for the summer already, given that we are 6 points, just 6 points behind Thistle with 5 games to play?
Possibly. I think Alan's right in what he's saying. If you're to look at this game like in its own right, it's a top of the table, not really, we're mid-table, but you know what I mean. It's a team it's a game against a team who is at the top of the table. We've had a really good long-running rivalry with Ayr just by being in the same league as them for what feels like about 100 years. Some great games in the past. We're in good form. They're only 1-1 in 4. So they're not in the best of form. And I feel like I've said this for the last 6 weeks, but if we do win and Thistle don't win, there's always just that little chance. But the light is fading fast, and we're really getting into the crux of it now. So yeah, we need 3 points on the board, and we need to hope for Thistle to slap up. Just need to wait and see.
And of course, the light at the end of the tunnel is actually a resurgent Airdrie coming for us next week.
Yeah,
Like
to be fair, I did kind of call that Airdrie were going to get back in. I think I said back about a couple of months ago, maybe not a couple of months ago. When did we play them away? Was it 6 weeks ago or something? I was like, I think they'll finish 8th. I think they'll finish 8th, and they looked miles off it at that point. I just thought they looked better than the teams at the bottom, and I stand by that.
Well, that's I think you're absolutely right. And again, said the same thing last weekend that I thought Airdrie would be able to get themselves up to 8th, and sort of results since then have kind of strengthened that view. Queen's Park very much slamming themselves back into that mix. We barely mentioned them. We talked about it as recently as Sunday, I think. But said that, it's only going to take 4 points for an Accies or a Dunfermline to kind of pull themselves clear. Part of that is Queen's Park might not pick up any, and then there really could be bother there. And I would still fancy Airdrie to finish 8th. But it could well be that Dunfermline could finish 7th at this rate, which would be wild, given where they've been.
Dunfermline still to play all the teams around them at home before the end of the season. It's going to get tight down there. Like, I'm really, really glad we got ourselves sorted out and got out of that, because that would be an absolute disaster to watch.
Well, it was only a few weeks ago we played Queen's Park, or it seems like it was only a few weeks ago, and they were above us in the table at that time, and we're 9 points ahead of them now.
Were they above us at that point?
Absolutely hammered us.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they were a point ahead of us after that game. It's such an odd division, and you just said there, Ian, about kind of every week we've been looking for Thistle to slip up, and that's actually really been the most sort of disappointing thing recently, is that they, in that really annoying way, they sacked Chris Dolan, and it was completely the right decision.
Yeah, totally got themselves together.
You can't, I know he was in the BBC, I think yesterday or the day before, talking to Jonathan Sutherland, kind of doing the usual thing where, 6 weeks after you've been sacked, you get to come back and kind of explain why you felt sad, which is fine, I'm sure he did. But ultimately, they were on the slide, they were at risk of falling out of the playoffs, so they pulled the trigger, sacked them. They've had 6 games since, haven't lost any of them.
Yeah, totally.
And now it looks very much like they will finish 4th. And I think that's the thing, is the two that really mattered, the game against us and the game against Morton, after we'd drawn Morton the midweek, and the fact that they came through those without losing either of them would probably have been enough. But the fact that they beat Morton really just kind of solidifies it for them. 6 points in 5 games is not insurmountable. If we finish 4th from here, it's not going to go down as one of the great footballing miracles, but it just doesn't have that feel to it.
You just away to Airdrie on Saturday, though, which was a tough game for them.
You've just said there as well, they've unbeaten in the last 6, and now we've got to win 2 more than them to draw level before the end of the season. It's and the balance of probabilities, it's unlikely.
So, Doolan's last 7 games, they'd lost 5 of them.
Yeah.
So that was where all that optimism came from. So, Thistle are in a bit of free fall. We can reel them in. And actually all that's happened is they've just stabilised, but that was all it was going to take. They had a big enough gap going into it. And Thistle's last 5 games, they play the bottom 3 and then they play the top 2. So they've got Airdrie, then Hamilton, then Dunfermline.
Yeah, can't see it.
What? 4 points out of that would probably be enough for them, really. And then they've still got Falkirk and Livingston after that. So it would be difficult to see it. The thing is, obviously, if we beat Ayr on Saturday and Thistle lose at Airdrie, well, then it's 3 points. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, hang on, 3 points, that's only an afternoon.
Yeah, 3 will talk.
And we've got 4 afternoons still to go. We get reeled into this very easily.
Yeah.
But
on the interview with Doolan, I don't know if you saw, he was complaining that the reason that they were pish after the turn of the year was that he never got any budget to spend in January. You spent it all in the summer, mate. How many players did you sign? I thought that was real crocodile tears, that.
And they still actually signed a few players in January as well. It's no
really
else's
weird.
fault that you signed a guy who then got injured on his first game.
signed like 3 left backs and didn't play 2 of them, and all sorts of weird stuff. Like, I just think that it's not like they swapped him for Brian Graham and Mark Wilson, who never gets a mention, like, and also signed a whole load of like top class players. Like, they've gone from 5 defeats in 7 to no losses in 6. Like, I mean, whatever their 7th result is when they play Airdrie, Brian Graham and Mark Wilson have turned that team around, like, undeniably.
Do that with Alex Jakubiak in the squad is really quite impressive.
Well, this is exactly it. One hand tied behind their backs. So he can complain about resources and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately, the way these things have gone, there's loads of teams in the division have had that very specific, we need to accomplish X, we're not doing it under you, so we're binning you. Thistle are the ones, I think, who can actually, right now, confidently say that was the right decision.
Yeah.
Queen's Park can confidently say that was not the right decision. They have had a terrible time with that. Which, yeah, I mean, who knows?
Still, but I could only... The only logic I could see behind them doing that is if they had somebody lined up. Like if maybe they'd been talking to Ian Murray already and wanted to bring him in. Maybe they have been, and Murray's got wind that Hawkey was pulling his money out or something. I don't know. But, yeah, it's just a very bizarre decision.
I don't think Davidson would be cheap. That's kind of... It's possibly coloured their decision and made them pull the trigger slightly earlier than what they usually would, especially all that's going on with them at the minute. Have they hired the replacement yet? Did anybody have I missed that? Has anybody gone in there?
It's been Stephen McLean, and he's done exactly what he did when he stepped in after Callum Davidson at St Johnstone.
Yeah,
which is done terribly.
Be a disaster. Yeah,
I think the other thing with Callum Davidson is that I think he knows his own mind, and I think he speaks his own mind as well. It was weeks ago, possibly around about January. There were a couple of interviews that he did where he was doing that very sort of disgruntled manager type, like, we need a striker in by the end of the window. And sometimes they'll do that almost as like a tease because they know they've got one lined up. And sometimes it's like, I'm not getting one. And I need the fans to know that it's not me, almost. And there was rumours that he'd actually done a couple of interviews that they didn't put out because he was saying that kind of thing. And I wonder if it's just kind of come to a head on that front, where they've also just been like, actually, because clearly things aren't going well behind the scenes at Queen's Park, and I wonder if he's just been like an added complication too far. But I mean, from a football perspective, there's not a chance he'd have done as poorly as they have done under Steve McLean. And there's disruption and stuff for him to manage. It's not just a case of like Steve McLean's not as good or whatever, although he clearly isn't. But yeah, really talking about anything other than this game against there. Right, well, I've only got one other thing written down, so let's go to that. This is the 5th time that we'll play Ayr United this season. It was the Challenge Cup, I think we've played them.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, we won't.
We won that 2-0, didn't
we? You leave at half time.
Yeah.
Lewis Jameson scored a double in the only game at Starks on the Friday night. That's the undoubted highlight of the games between us. And Barry Robson had his first game at Somerset. We get beat 3-0. Alan, what's changed since then?
I think, a big part of it is, Robson's got the team playing the way he wants them to play now, I think, in terms of they've kind of got them, as they should. If they didn't have it, if it hadn't sunk in by now, then there's something either wrong with the players or with Robson, because he's been working with them for a few months now. But the work rate's there. Albeit we've still had the odd bizarre game like Morton away in Queen's Park where we've conceded a lot of goals, but on the whole we've been really solid at the back. And we're start scoring a few more goals as well. The team are just it seems like they're doing. They've got a set way they like to play, and they're sticking to it. Under Collins, we could play 3 different formations in a game, and we change it at half time and then start the next game with the formation that we played in the second half of the game for, and then change it at half time again. It just seemed like he He hadn't settled on a way of playing yet, and realistically, that Ayr game was still pretty much Colin's team. You know, Barry Robson hadn't had a chance to, albeit we're still playing with the same players. We're very much playing a different style of football than we did back then. And hopefully he's learned his lesson and isn't going to have Lewis Stevenson marking George Oakley again as well. That's hopefully changed.
Yeah. Iain, how would you reflect on sort of what's changed or how much has changed in that time? I mean, that was the 4th of January. So, I've just pulled that up and I've just seen that Cody David came on for Lewis Jameson just after at halftime. I think that feels like so much longer ago than whatever that is, 3 or 4 months ago. Sorry, I interrupted myself asking you the question. How do you feel about where Barry Robson's gotten to in that time, given where he started?
I think we've got to give Robson credit for the fact that, and Robson's referenced this a couple of times, I've heard him say in a few different interviews where it's like when he came in we were very much looking down the table, and he's got us to a point where we're looking up probably with one eye closed at this point, but like we've got no worries about going down now. And you've got to say that he's made us has he made us better or has he made us more difficult to beat? And I suppose that's kind of where I'm keen to see where it goes next season, because I feel as though right now we are very attritional. We've stopped losing the silly goals, which has made a massive difference. So I'm not saying we don't concede from cross balls, because we absolutely still do, but that number's gone down massively. He's made some key changes in some key positions, which I think has helped solidify the defence. Swapping, obviously, Big Kev for Josh Ray. Not everybody was delighted about it. You can't argue with the result. It's made a difference. It looked for a long time like Fordyce and Murray were just frozen out. They didn't get a kick for how long? Months. And then they've come back in, and credit to them both, they've both been fine. They've both been absolutely fine. And it kind of makes you think, like, well, why were they out the team for so long if they're always going to be all right? The proof will be in the pudding in the summer, because I think once we get through the League Cup group and then probably the first couple of games of the season, we'll see what sort of style he's got once he's got his own players. And that's the key for me, because as much as he's come in and he's made us slightly harder to, he's definitely made us harder to beat, we're still not that great to watch. And there's still times when I sit in the stand and I think, like, right, we've got the ball's at left back, Lewis Stevenson's got it. What do we do to form an attack? Like, what is our pattern of play that we're looking to set up when he gets the ball? Is someone dropping deep? Is he looking to hit the striker's feet? Are we going in behind? And it's just a kind of like, Scott Brown's free, we'll give it to him. And then he'll get the ball, and then, Dylan Easton's free, I'll give it to him. It's like, it can sometimes be, it's not particularly joined up. And I get that it's because Robson is making do with the hand he's been dealt. So let's see what happens next season. I'm really hoping that he's going to get his own players and we'll see a much more kind of fluid, attacking type side next season.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch that development of Barry Robson's team, because at times, well, I think we've been quite open about it. I think anyone with anyone who's watched this you can see there's been like a stubbornness almost to a fault at points. But also it's, with the benefit of hindsight now, like it's kind of difficult to argue with the results. Like, ultimately he's done what he had to do. And like, players have adapted as well. Like, not just the more kind of drastic ones, even the likes of like Dylan Easton, for example, playing as the 10, playing centrally. We knew he could do it, but he can do it really well because he's basically done it 10 weeks in a row. And that's not necessarily what you want to be doing. But it's what Barry Robson has had to do, and it has worked. And I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see what he does over the summer in terms of, once he's got the breathing space and the ability to make changes, how much will what we've seen be sort of elevated beyond what we've seen so far? But it's an interesting contrast, I think, between Neil Collins and Barry Robson, because I think there is a world of difference between the sort of perception and the kind of what you see is what you get nature of them. Because as you say, Alan, Neil Collins was so changeable that I think you could almost project whatever you wanted onto Neil Collins. If you were happy to believe him, there was enough there to kind of be sold on it. But equally, if you weren't sold on it, it was like incredibly easy to dismiss as well. It was almost like he was like all things to all people, Neil Collins, because he changed so many things so often.
Yeah.
And obviously he was here for such a small amount of time, and we varied so wildly from one thing to the other. Like, I was really looking forward to seeing where that went. Like, as things started to kind of settle down, because we were still all over the place, and you had players coming in and all this kind of stuff. And then Barry Robson's come in, and he's just been like, those 11 players. Every minute of every game, I want those 11 players. Like, it just... the referee's telling him to switch ends and he's not happy about it. Like, nah.
I think it's basically, Collins... I still don't know what Collins' style of football is. I mean, he was with us for however many games. I've not got a clue. I know exactly how Barry Robson wants us to play. Yeah. And I think, essentially, what he's in just now is a situation where he's not really got the squad that's ideally suited to play the style he plays. So what he's going to do is he's just going to play the same 11 guys in the same position every single bloody week so that pure muscle memory gets them through, so that he's not having to bring someone in who's getting used to the style of play, because these 11 guys have played every game, so they know exactly how he wants them to play. And I think it's just that. It's about getting to the end of the season. They're obviously trying to still get promoted. It's not going to happen. But I think it's very much just, let's get to the end of the season. I don't think anyone would be surprised to see a fairly big turnaround the players in the summer. And as Iain says, let's see where he takes us next year.
Yeah, you can't argue with the results either. I'm not criticising Barry Robson when I'm saying that. Like,
no.
Almost for like 3 or 4 games in, I was like, give somebody else a go. But ultimately, at this point, we've seen how easy it is to get sucked into that bottom end of the division. And we are not part of that. And he deserves credit for that. He absolutely does. But I think this will be the test, as you say, at the start of next season. Once he's had a bit of time and he's been able to use the market to do whatever he can do, it's what's the kind of next stage of this project. If we're willing to call this season effectively a kind of rescue job, you do then need to kind of take it another step. Next season, it needs to be a little bit more evolved, almost. So it will be interesting to see what that looks like. I don't imagine we're going to see a huge amount of evolution by Saturday. Iain, is there anyone in particular you would though be hoping to see come into this lineup, or anything you might want to see done slightly differently, given the discrepancy in the challenge posed by playing this Hamilton side versus this Ayr side?
Yeah, Ayr are obviously exceptionally good in the air going forward. Oakley's a danger, and for that reason I've got Murray back in, and I've moved Docherty out to right full back. But other than that, I've got Vaughan up front. I had Pollock, scored him out and wrote Vaughan. I just want to see Lewis Vaughan play football, to be honest with you. He's been out for a long time. I'd like to see him get some minutes in his legs. And a point which I was actually going to raise just there, now that the season it's not finished, like I'm talking as if like we're going to finish 5th and there's nothing left to play for. That's not the case. That's not what I'm saying. But given that that's the case and Pollock is a lone player, and the chances of him coming back next season, listen, he might come back next year if Hearts are not interested or they don't see him as ready. I'm keen to just give our players the minutes. And for that reason, I've got Vaughan up front with Gullen, Matthews, Brown and East in the middle, obviously. But yeah, I think Murray coming back in is very layman thinking. Like, Ayr are good at headering it, so let's put one of our players who is also good at headering it in the way. I'm sure Barry Robson's thought about it in much greater detail than that, thankfully.
I mean, I agree with you. That's the level that my thinking went to.
That's why we do this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Alan, how about you? Any arguments to pick there?
I would go with exactly the same as Ian. I don't think he will. I think the bringing Murray in for Mullen and putting Doherty to right back, I think he will do that for the reasons that Ian stated. Just for that extra defensive cover and an extra big man in the set pieces at both ends, actually, to be honest. But as much as I would love to see him bring Vaughan in for two reasons. One, I just think a fully fit Louis Vaughan, I don't think he is fully fit yet, but he's only going to get there by playing games. A fully fit Louis Vaughan makes our team better. There is absolutely no argument to that. And I do agree with Ian that if you're looking at it as the season, there's really not that much to play for other than consolidating fifth. It's much better for Barry Robson to get a look at guys who are more likely to be here next season. I think, unfortunately, I don't think the team are ready to give up on that yet, and they're going to keep going until it's mathematically impossible. And I think Finlay Pollock is quite important to the way that Barry Robson wants us to play with that kind of high press. So I think he will stick with Pollock and Gullen up front, albeit I would like to see Vaughan come in. And if he's not going to start, give him half an hour. Give him a bit more. He got a bit more of a game against Hamilton last week, and he came on and got an assist. So if you're not going to start him, give him more minutes.
Just really good. Eh?
Yes.
Like, it's just...
There's not a team in this league isn't better with a fit Lewis Vaughan in it.
Definitely.
I'll argue with all the Falkirk fans who think they've got the best player in every single position on the pitch on that one.
Arguing with Falkirk fans. It's not like them. It's obviously, it's unfortunate the number of times that this has happened, but Lewis Vaughan to me is almost the opposite of the player who's out the team for so long that he starts getting better. Who did Blair accuse us, and me specifically, of saying that about the other day? Aidan Marsh was who it was.
Yeah.
Which might be true.
The League Rice effect. Yeah.
We have been to lesser or greater extent.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. A pair of Falkirk fans. And that might be true, right? Because that's, to be fair, it is the perfect candidate for it. Where Aidan Marsh has sat on the bench so long that I'm now kind of convinced that he must be brilliant. But as Lewis Vaughan's the opposite. Like, when he starts coming back, I start tempering my expectations. I'm like, he's been out so long, I'm maybe kind of building this up a little bit. And he comes back and he's just class. And it's like, because he's brilliant. He's just quite simply our best player. And has been for basically 10 years.
Yeah, it would have been so far beyond our level if he hadn't had his injuries. Like, miles beyond our level by now.
It's just... so just delighted he's back. And I'm exactly the same. I'd have been for the start. Basically under any circumstance. There's not really... Unless there's... Obviously, he's not fit enough for it, because he's just, working his way back, then obviously that's fine. But ultimately, if he's fit enough to play, he starts. For me, it's like almost superseding whatever this other strategy is. Like, if it involves pressing for the front, then fine, play somebody else to do that, because the quality that he's got is better than whatever else you're gonna get. Like, from the players that we have available to us.
Just whilst we're on the kind of the overall squad, Duncan, I wanted to ask you about where you saw Lewis Gibson fitting into this.
Yeah,
had very little game time since Robson came in, and whether or not you thought that was down to him, or whether or not you thought that was down to the system.
It's a good question. I'm glad somebody's got questions for this episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I tell you, the reason I don't know is I don't feel like I've seen enough football from him. I don't really have a great understanding of where he played for Queen of the South. It's very clear to me that he can play on both sides. There was a game, it must have been the last time we were at Hamilton. Came off the bench where there was still a little bit of time to go, and he came on for Lewis Stevenson. And now, what's a very un-Barry Robson-like substitution, where he just changed someone at left wing back, kind of to give him 5 minutes, which didn't really, he's not done an awful lot of, especially in the interim period. But that, and the way that we're playing at the moment, that to me seems like the best place for him. For all I have gone to great lengths to complain about the fact that we don't have natural wing backs, and that I think that's a problem, Lewis Gibson seems to have the best kind of profile for that. Not necessarily a great defender. Thinking of that one game at Hampden, which I'll not go into again.
Yeah.
But in terms of having the engine and the quality on the ball, and just that ability to run at a man that we don't really have a lot of. Josh Mullen definitely just doesn't do that. He crosses from deep. We know he's good at it. Lewis Stevenson, he's not going to go and take that kind of one-on-one and try and run his man down the line. Lewis Gibson will do that. And he's one that certainly, say for example, right, say we do get beat on Saturday and Thistle win, and suddenly it's a 9-point gap with 4 games to go. He would be top of my list for right, grand, you're starting the next game.
Yep.
Lewis Stevenson's played more minutes than anybody else this season. I'd just be telling him to go and have his holidays. Effectively, you've done your job. We're not going to learn anything more about Lewis Stevenson. Give him the rest of the season off, and we'll get other guys in the team. But Gibson's the one that probably, I'm sure we will end up doing some sort of summary type episodes in a few weeks' time. Lewis Gibson might almost go down as the biggest sort of disappointment for me. And not him by any means at all. I mean, how little we've seen of him. Because we signed him and Kai Montague in the same period anyway. And it was kind of a case of here's 2 really young guys. One of them is very much coming in as, hasn't really played any first team football, coming in from a much lower level, a bit of a project, or we'll see how he gets on. And I think he's almost exceeded expectations with the game time that he's had and how good he's looked. Whereas Lewis Gibson was he's only coming in from the league below. He's played games, he's looked decent, should be looking to get, effectively I think you're almost he's coming off the bench every week for the first half of the season, and if he's good, maybe getting himself a starting place. And in the end up, we've gone weeks and weeks without seeing him. And I get to say, it's not his fault. I mean, I think if we were using wingers, we'd have seen a lot more of him. But, how do you feel about that, Ian?
I think it's that you mentioned there now about the start of the season, and I remember on a podcast, I think maybe 2 or 3 games into the season, I'd said something about I was concerned a wee bit that the amount of people that were kind of pinning their hopes on him. Do you know what I mean?
There was a lot of that.
First game of the season, and folk were shouting, "Get Gibson on!" And he's one of these guys where I think if you're at the top of the league doing not a lot of defending and he's playing left wing, he's probably skinning boys, getting the ball to the byline. Do you know what I mean? He's that sort of mercurial type player.
Yeah.
But I think just the sort of type of season we've had, the change of managers, the change of setups, the change of shape, now into a shape where his position isn't really accommodated for. It's just not happened for him. He's not got a proper run of games. I feel for him a bit. I do feel for him because I think there is a real player in there, and I hope we can do something to get some game time into him before the end of the season, and then we can see a bit more of him after the summer.
I think that's the thing. He's definitely him and Connolly are the 2 guys who've suffered most from the big change of shape in our squad. I mean, they've been signed by Ian Murray, who loved a 4-2-3-1. and both of those guys fit in perfectly. You know, he started the season, he was coming on, and he was playing that kind of left wing on the 3 in the 4-2-3-1, and he was making these little triangles with Dylan Easton and Lewis Stevenson. You know, like Easton would move in maybe to the middle, and the three of them looked, you know, him and Stevenson were overlapping really well. You know, they were creating a lot of chances for each other, and you know, as we've moved away from that, at one point, genuinely, I'm looking, thinking, we're going to lose him at the end of the season because a bigger team's going to come in, and he looked like he had that much ability, and I don't think that's gone anywhere. I think he's still got that in him. He's just been really unlucky that he just doesn't necessarily fit into the way Barry Robson wants to play, other than, as you say, if Stevenson got hurt, maybe you could use him on the left the way we've used Josh Mullin on the right. I wouldn't necessarily want to go into a game with Gibson at left wing back and Mullin at right wing back, to be fair, but unless it was
at New Douglas Park.
Well, absolutely, yeah, that'd be fine.
But yeah, you wouldn't go to Celtic Park like that.
He suffered a wee bit because, like, you start the season with 4 wingers, and Easton's made a transition to play number 10, and Mullin's made the transition to play fullback, but Connolly and Gibson, they're not totally suited to that. We flirted with Connolly, he's played right wing back a couple of times, he came on there away at Airdrie from memory. He played up front against Queen's Park at Hampden. He's kind of moved about a little bit, but Gibson's just not really been given much of a shout. I think it's just down to the shape.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, even if Sam Stanton hadn't departed stage left, Dylan Easton's looking at 15 minutes here and there.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it's exactly that. It really is just a case of we have a squad built for one very specific system, and Barry Robson has chosen to play a very different one. And again, I think that was where 8 weeks ago we were quite openly questioning that. It's like you could come in and you just decide, right, we're just going to play one system every single week without change at all. Like, you know, pick one that all your players can play. But again, as I say, the results justify it. Like the ends, quite literally, the ends justify the means with that. Yeah. But this is where, on both sides, the club and the players, quite a few of them are going to have decisions to make in the summer around if this is the way that we're going to go. And you would have to kind of assume we will. It would be odd if Barry Robson had settled on this formation with these players, but it wasn't his overall kind of long-term plan. You would have to assume this is the way he wants to go. Lewis Gibson's a very good example of a player who kind of needs to, I think, you know, either out loud or even just in his own head, adapt to a different position and identify under a different position to just go, right, if we're going to play like this 36 games out of 36 in the league season, I can't be Lewis Gibson the winger anymore. It needs to be, right, I'm your left wing back. I might be second choice, but I am your left wing back, and go with that. Because if he's in this kind of halfway piece, Aidan Connolly is the perfect example of that. Because Aidan Connolly's good enough. Aidan Connolly is in our 11 best footballers. I would say that without actually thinking about it. I say that with a lot of confidence. But he's not getting any game time. And that's where there's multiple guys who are going to have to think about it that way. As an aside, I'd be really interested to know, just as like a ballpark figure, how many bounce games we play against the opposition, rather than just like inter-squad games over the course of a season. Because, like, this is when me and Blair were arguing about Aidan Marsh, and he was saying that, like, Barry Robson sees him every day in training. So if he's not playing him, he's obviously not seeing what he needs to see. And generally, if it wasn't Blair making that point, I agree with that. Like, managers typically act in their own best interests. Like, if Aidan Marsh is playing like Ronaldo in training every week, every day, Barry Robson's not going to just not pick him for no reason. Like, there's logic behind it. But I mean, I think you made this point. Like, training's very different from a game. And listen, a bounce game is very different from an actual game. But that's where, like, without a reserve side, without that kind of regularity, you hear every now and again about, we've played a game midweek against Ayr. It seems to be as often as any. You wonder how often that's actually happening. Like, how often is Lewis Gibson getting 90 minutes or 60 minutes, even, in front of Barry Robson, in front of John Potter, to just actually go out, play a full game of football against opposition? Because I see, without the reserves team, that's like, just training's not going to be enough. Like, that's so difficult to kind of fight your way into the play, especially given that he's basically going to have to try and overtake Lewis Stevenson.
Yeah, so I think the Aidan Marsh of it as well. Like, I feel for him because he's obviously come up the road under the impression that he's going to be coming in to play for a gaffer who he worked with before, and then he's jettisoned before he's even kicked a ball, and then it's a really difficult one. If he's not performing in training, then he's not going to get in the side, because Barry Robson plays the same 11 players every week.
Yeah.
So these players are human, right? And if you know that doesn't matter what you do all week, Barry Robson's going to pick the same 11, you'd love to think that footballers go in and they all talk about mentality, about can only go in and do the best that we can, but it's always a little soundbite, and there's got to be a wee bit that comes into play of, like, this guy's just not going to fucking pick me. Do you know what I mean? And then if that's how you're going into training, and listen, I'm not saying that that's what Aidan Marsh has done and that's why he's not been playing, but there's got to be a wee element of, like, this guy just doesn't fancy me, so what's the point?
Especially after 6 weeks. Or whatever it is. With that.
I don't think Aidan Marsh has been so bad when he's come on the pitch.
No.
Quite the opposite. I think he's actually done really well. That first game at Falkirk, he's excellent. Like, genuinely excellent. And then he's just totally fallen out of favour and can barely get 5-10 minutes on the park. It's a shame, man. I feel like he
comes on at New Douglas Park, scores a goal.
Yeah.
Pretty decent.
I feel for him. It's probably been a difficult time in his life. Do you know what I mean? To come up away from all his family, came up to a fair amount of kind of excitement and intrigue, and then just to not get a kick, he's like away from all his friends, everyone he knows in a town that doesn't really know anybody, probably living on his own. It's a shame. It's a shame it's not worked out.
And I think, like, to draw a very lazy comparison, like he's unfortunately, and we didn't think this at the time, he's basically taking Cody David's squad place.
Yeah.
And Cody David got a lot more minutes because we did not have anybody else. But in terms of, like, the technical ability between the two, I don't think there's any question.
It's night and day.
Like, if you gave me either one, I'm taking Aidan Marsh without question at all, based on everything we've seen in that little time. But you're right about the because the thing is, he goes into training Monday morning after the game. He doesn't just have to be better than Finlay Pollock or Jamie Gullen. He has to be degrees better than them because they've got the jersey.
Yeah.
So they've played. If one of them scored, he's effectively, doesn't matter. Basically knows as he's leaving the ground on the Saturday, well, I'm not going to play next week because they've scored the day, so they're not going to lose their place. You're having to go and consistently outperform these other guys to go and do that. And I mean, really, that's what you're waiting for is injuries. Or it is that where you get on, you manage to score 2 goals in the last 10 minutes of a game, and almost just by virtue of, like, footballing convention, you force your way into the starting lineup. And actually, I mean, it's like, it would be very harsh on Finlay Pollock, and he's obviously done really, really well recently. But when he did go off injured at New Douglas Park and Aidan Marsh came on and scored, the fact that whatever that injury was just, like, disappeared. and
straight back.
Pollock was straight back. And Pollock had already scored in that game. So it wasn't even that he'd, like, outperformed him in that. So he's just, I think, and Blair, I think, kind of, this was one of his points that may or may not have validity to it. I just really wanted him to do really well. I think that
I like him.
I really like him, and I like his interviews. I like his attitude. I like the way that he plays as well. Like I like what I see when I see him.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have seen more of him. And I mean, on that basis, I know what you were saying before about once the season's kind of done. It's whatever point that comes. Like, you don't really want to be playing your lone players anymore. Well, except Aidan Marsh. I think Aidan Marsh should still play.
He's a good lad. Get him in.
Exactly. I'd like to see a bit more from him.
For sure.
You swap him out for Fridley Pollock at that point.
I mean, I suppose what you do is you play them and you give them time to kind of build the relationship with the parent club, because you don't want to have a team that won't deal with you at all. If you're going to look for more loan players, you don't want a team saying, well, I'm not sending someone to them because they never bloody play their loan players. So there's probably that element as well. I mean, as much as he likes Pollock, that's the reason that we'll probably keep playing Pollock as well for the rest of the season, because, Pollock's not the first player we've had on loan for Hearts. We were the first one in a while who's been any good, to be fair. But so there's almost that kind of managing the relationship with the parent club as well.
Yeah. I am looking forward to George Guitow's 3 back-to-back man the match performances.
Back in 2 weeks, I heard. For the 12th week in a row.
Right, we have done 45 minutes. I think 40 seconds of them were about Ayr United or this game on Saturday. But I really don't think we've got much else for that. So let's have a quick break and then we'll come back and we will have Should McStay or Should Dargo. Blair.
Yes, mate.
You're a man.
Yes.
And you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. Probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
Right, Ian, it's over to you. You have the hot seat for Should McStay or Should Dargo. Allan, by the way, there's a lot of pressure on us here. I don't know how you feel about this. I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, when I saw it was the skeleton squad, I very quickly jumped in and said that I would put one together today. So, yeah, here we go.
When I met David McGurn in the stand a few weeks ago, I almost said to him, "Oh, I got you on Should McStay or Should Dargo." He'd probably looked at me like, "What?"
Yeah. Okay, clue number 1. I signed for the club initially on loan, then permanently, and played a total of 80 times, according to Wikipedia, so I imagine that's league games.
Right.
Seems too many, but I'm going to go with Regan Hendry.
That was exactly who I was going to say as well.
He scored the other day, by the way. I saw that. They got beat, but he scored.
That was a decent goal as well.
I've not seen it, but
it's a little. He's kind of wide of the box, a free kick. It's wide of the box, and the boy just lays it off for him, and he basically just takes it to the corner of the box, curls it right into the top corner.
Nice.
It's great. It's a really. It looks almost better than it is because one of the defenders, as well as the keeper diving across, one of the defenders tries to kind of kung fu kick, block it out of the way, and nearly takes the keeper out. It just really adds to it.
Okay, I will do clue number 2. If you've both going Regan Hendry, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, why not?
Sure. I played for 7 Scottish professional clubs and 1 junior club, and I signed for the Rovers from Livingston.
Not Regan Hendry. Oh, maybe all London City.
Bobby Barr? I don't remember him being on loan, actually, but doesn't seem inconceivable. He scored at the weekend as well. He's still playing.
Is he? Where
scored a penalty for somebody in the west of Scotland.
I was going to say, I think he's in the west of Scotland.
He must be nearly
Maybe.
40.
You're surprised at that, suggest it's probably not him. But I'll stick with that anyway.
I have no idea if he came to us on loan first or not, or actually came from Livingston, but I'm fairly certain he played for them. I'm going to go with Craig Barr. Not Bobby's brother, as far as I know.
Okay, next one. I have a brother who also played professional football.
I've got to stick with Craig Barr.
Bobby's brother.
No, I do actually have a funny feeling in the back of my head that he did have a brother somewhere. I'm not sure where. I might have just made that up to try and make it seem like.
There's a lot of bars.
Bobby Barr currently plays for Ashfield, a football club I have not heard of.
No, me neither.
I thought that was a chip shop.
They're based in Postle Park,
Okay.
in the north of Glasgow.
Good luck to him.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of
scored
Glasgow
a
teams
penalty.
in the west of Scotland League, isn't there? There's like if some of them go on a run, there's potential to get quite a lot of. Although there's talk of they're going to restructure league Tier 5, I think, aren't they? Talking about messing with that again.
I think this
That's
is
in constant change.
East, they're going to have an east, west, and north or something like that, so that teams like Brecon didn't have to play with the Highland teams. They can play like in an east league.
Makes sense.
Ashfield are Tier 6 or Tier 7, possibly.
6 would be West of Scotland Premier, isn't it? And then 7 would be
So
West
this
of Scotland
is
First Division.
West of Scotland First Division, so below that.
Which, to be fair, is where Darvo were when they beat Aberdeen.
Yeah. Right, okay, that was mostly me killing time to...
This next clue is a good clue. I like this one. I was signed by Dick Campbell 3 times for 3 separate clubs in successive moves.
Ah. Yeah.
Give you a
Right,
bit to
Alan,
think
I'm
about.
going into co-op mode here. So
Campbell's been at Dunfermline, he's been at, Forfar?
you've got to
Arbroath?
think, Forfar, Arbroath, East Fife? These kind of...
I was thinking maybe Dunfermline, Forfar, Arbroath. He does like signing players he knows, Dick Campbell, doesn't he?
Aye. It's not going to be East Fife, is it? Because this person's also played juniors. You'd suspect that would be end of their career. I suppose this is the thing, is the big thing we've not got is an era on this.
So they've played for those, they played for Livingston and us.
And they have a brother.
Who's a...
Played for Livy. He signed for us from Livingston.
Yeah.
That feels like that should be easier to get. Right, let me just empty my brain of a few names. None of these are the right answer. I'm just thinking, right, so who's played for the Rovers and Livingston? Dylan Easton, Matty Poplatnik, Isma Chalvez, Bobby Barr. Let's see if this jogs anything.
Big German, what's his name? Lars
Lakoch. Yeah. Dick Campbell player, to be fair.
Yeah. I'm going to guess it's not going to be Steve Tosh or Marvin Andrews or Alec Burns or any of these guys.
Steve Tosh's brother, Paul Tosh.
Well,
Not brothers.
no. With
Lars
a really
Lakoch's
unfortunate nickname
brother.
of Tall Pish.
Right. 80 games for us as well, Alan. This isn't some niche James Keating.
That's probably 3 seasons.
Yeah. It's a loan initially. You're probably told a loan and then 2 seasons after that.
So maybe loan for half a season, then plays for 2 seasons, something like that.
Callum Crane, I think, played for both, but I don't think it's him.
Someone's going to have this by now, aren't they? Someone's going to be screaming at their phone saying, "You're idiots, how have you not got this?"
Do you want your era clue? Because it's the next one.
Aye, go on then, please.
I won a league title with the Rovers.
That could be several eras. Not too many, but
No.
some. Actually, anytime there's a mention of like won a trophy, anything like that at all, the only thing I can think of is the YouTube video of the players celebrating on the pitch in the COVID season. So that's all I can get is like 4 players for I can remember being that. But it's like Davo, Ross Matthews, Dylan Tate, and played under Dick Campbell 3 different times.
You would. Wow. When was Dick Campbell at Dunfermline? He was there quite a while ago, like early 2000s.
Was he at Brecon as well at one point?
He was at Livingston actually at one point, was he not?
Because he went 4 for 2 Arbroath.
I just had a moment of pure panic there where I was like, shit, did he win the league? But he did. I double checked it.
So
I'm struggling to think of players we've
Let me
signed
think
directly
about
for
that.
Livingston.
team that won the league at Hampden. Who's in that side?
Graham Weir, obviously.
Yeah.
Marvin Andrews. We believe. Christ, who else was in that team?
Stevie Hislop. He crossed my mind before because he played for Livingston. I don't remember him being on loan. I don't know if he has a brother.
Ah,
And I would have said more than 80 games, but that's probably not a million miles away.
Have we ever had a smudge that nobody's got? Have we ever got right through all the clues?
We got to a point once where Graham Meldrum was humming initials.
this feels like one that we should know as well. That's the thing.
Yeah,
you know.
no,
Like
this
you say,
is
it's the whole,
definitely gettable.
especially the 80 games thing. And
This is what I was worried about, the fact that it was just the two of us. Because at least for 4 or 5, there's more.
Yeah.
I want to get involved and help. It's really frustrating.
I've said this a dozen times before, but this is where if I'm listening, I could just pause it. I'd give myself 20 minutes and then come up with some names. Right, I'm trying to think who else from that season. So, Bobby Sloan. Can't think that we've got brothers or anything there that I can think of. Joe Hamill? Nah, he's not a Dick Campbell type guy.
I'm going to give some slight steer.
Right,
When
please.
was the other time that we won the league?
Other than
Other than 08-09?
the COVID season.
No.
oh, so we're going back to what 2-3? No, where so we won it.
Under Calderon.
Calderon.
Ah, right, hang on. Don't know why I did that, as if I had more names.
I was waiting on the name there, fuck's sake.
Right, Ramon Pereira, he went to Livy from us. I'm really struggling to actually just kind of visualise that. That side.
A lot of that side were Spanish and Argentinian.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy's played for 7 Scottish professional clubs.
Yeah, Dick Campbell signed them 3 times. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't want to
It's no
cast
Ramon
aspersions about Dick Campbell's feelings about anything. at all, actually. Like, I'm just going to cut myself off there. I can't think who else was in that. Oh. No.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say David Templeton. I think he's too late and never came back. He was just, that was literally only, I think the only criteria he meets is that he played with us on loan.
I was thinking Andy Smith, but I don't know if am I the wrong title? Because Andy Smith obviously played in the title-winning team, and he scored the goal that won us the title.
He scored the winner, yeah, against
Are we writing that down?
Rangers.
And he also would have played probably at Dunfermline under Dick Campbell.
And I think he
Whether or not he
played
got
for
him from Livingston or not is another matter, but
he plays as many as 80 games for us.
I wouldn't have thought so, actually.
He scored a lot more goals than I thought for us. I looked him up recently. Scored a lot more goals.
Recently, when you were doing your Should McStay or Should Dargo?
Could have been. Do you want the final clue?
Yeah, I think we're going to need the final clue.
I have the same surname as a very famous American footballer.
Right, how many American footballers do I know?
Yeah, because it's going to be one of them.
Joe Namath.
So, I don't remember Manning ever playing for us, or
Wee Tam Heisman.
it's not the guy. It's not Beckham. He never played for us.
He's now retired.
I feel like I know who you mean, and I can see him. I cannot think what his name is. Oh, and right, I know who it is.
Go.
Darren Brady.
Well done, Duncan. It is indeed Darren Brady. Really reading the archives there.
Yeah, I think you stopped short of humming his initials, but only just.
Or saying he had the same hair colour as my beard or something.
He's from that era of time that the internet's almost forgotten, to the point where I got all of the clues for the quiz from 2 web pages, one of which is his Wikipedia page.
But he is kind of synonymous with that team, though. Like, now that you've said it, definitely.
See him in the strip.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
you know, the white and blue one. Yeah,
and that is the strip I was like trying to picture people in. Yeah,
I think it's one of those, like, it's. If you'd asked me these kind of questions probably 10 years ago, when my memory of that period was a lot better, I'd have probably done. Like, I used to be someone like you could tell me a game from that era, and I'd remember who scored the goals and what the goals were like and stuff like that. Kind of like Robbie still is, to be honest. But the passage of time and the consumption of lager has very much ruined the memories.
Yeah, I probably should have picked that one for when we had 5 on rather than 3, but yeah, there we go. My apologies and well done for getting it in the end.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely, I think none of us are good enough at this game.
Yeah.
We really need the 4 or 5 just to cover the dead air as much as anything.
So clue number 1, signed on loan from Livingston, and then played 34 times on loan, and then he played 46 times over 2 seasons, 2003-2005. His brother is Gary Brady, played for St Mirren around about the same time. Never heard of him. No. Gary with 2 R's. 7 professional clubs, so he played for Airdrie, Dundee United, Livy, us, Partick Thistle, County Forfar, and then he played for Pollock. The Dick Campbell clue was he played for Partick Thistle under Dick Campbell, then he went to Ross County under Dick Campbell, and then he went to Forfar under Dick Campbell.
I did not know Dick Campbell had been at either Partick or Ross County. That's how much attention I've paid.
He gets sacked when he was top of the league when he was at County.
Style and panache. That was that statement, wasn't it? Is that when they appointed Derek McInnes? I think it was. First time.
Right. 72 games for Thistle. Darren Brady. So I was thinking, was like, I can kind of see him in a Thistle jersey as well. I don't think I could have picked any of those other teams he's played for.
Nah. But the Forfar, I thought I couldn't remember him playing for County, but I remember him playing for Forfar as well. I should also say apologies to our younger listeners, who Darren Brady probably played for us before you were born. But here you go, I'm officially old.
I was going to say, to be fair, mate, he played for us when me and you were like 12 or 13. So
yeah.
Yeah. I was in my early 20s drinking a lot. So.
Sorry, Alan.
Oh, good. I'll console myself with the fact that I was happily enjoying beer back then, and these weren't, so or not legally anyway.
No.
that was very good. Straight up and down in the line as well. None of this nonsense with the cryptic clues. You know what I mean?
No got time for that.
Excellent, good stuff. Right,
Blair's going to have been shouting though when you gave your era clue. It's like that doesn't help. We've won how many titles?
Doesn't meet the criteria.
From the 60s. Yeah. Dick Campbell's been managing since then as well, I think so.
I know.
Yeah. I think if we could have fewer Dick Campbell clues, that would help me. Right, just one final thing before we go. Just to say good luck to Rovers down south. They are holding their Unsung Heroes tribute night tomorrow night, Friday night, at the Dean Park, raising funds for the Community Foundation and some of the great work that they've been doing. So I'm sure that'll be a brilliant night. So hopefully everybody who's going to that enjoys themselves. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We will be back, I imagine, on Sunday for the post-match of whatever happens in the game that we've barely talked about. And we will speak to you again then. Thank you, and goodbye.